You've heard of Golem, haven't you? Right? Well, maybe not this Golem. My precious. I said I wouldn't do that. Hello and welcome to the Bottled Imp. My name is Ken Boyter and this is a fantasy review show. Now today we're going to be reviewing The Legend of the Golem by Ivana Pechackova. If that's how you pronounce it, I do apologise if I'm pronouncing it wrong, which I inevitably am. Ivana Pechackova. There you go. And no, it's nothing to do with that Golem and nothing to do with Lord of the Rings. Now, the reason why I'm reviewing The Legend of the Golem is basically Prague. I'd always wanted to visit Prague and I was lucky enough to do so last year. And what a beautiful medieval city it is. But I'm not here to review Prague, unfortunately. I'm here to review The Legend of the Golem. And while I was in Prague, all over the city, I kept noticing this giant, although this isn't obviously a giant, this clay figure. And sometimes these clay figures would be like massive, they were really high, really tall, and they kept popping up, or this image kept popping up all over the city, and I wanted to know why. It was obviously something to do with the city, and eventually I did find out. It was actually a reference to a Jewish legend, that of the Golem, and that is the look of the Golem. And it's basically what I thought was, well, where does this story come from? And that's, in a strange way, what the actual book is about. So I thought about this and I thought, well, actually, yeah, some creation stories, they do have creation ancestors that create clay humans, if you like, to explain humankind. And I guess the most famous of those is Adam. Adam was created from the ground and God breathed life into him. So it was a creation story that was at the heart of this story. Now, the actual myth is about a rabbi, Rabbi Lowe, and it's set in about 1590. And the reason why the Golem is created is that he wanted to protect the Jews from attacks from Christians. And basically he lived in Prague, so he thought he would set this Golem up and they would protect any attacks. So this Golem would be going around the streets basically like a massive bodyguard, but it was completely under the control of the rabbi. Now, also what's apparent is, in doing research, is that we don't really know if this actually happened. Was, did a rabbi create a magical protector that protected the Jews against the Christians? And really, that's what is at the heart of the book. Did this actually happen? And that's the question that's posed. So the actual story is a story within a story. The story is framed by a student who is basically, his name's Johan, and he's looking to reanimate the Golem. Now, he is studying, and when you first encounter him, he's actually selling his books to a second-hand bookshop. And so obviously he needs money to travel to Prague. He lives in Heidelberg and he's studying there. And he's not content with his studies, and so he sells his books and he has a nice chunk of money and he's just about to go off to Prague when his friends, his fellow students, bundle him into the nearest pub and they actually hijack him and they spend his money on booze. Now obviously that's not necessarily a bad thing, but he wanted to travel to Prague, and his quest starts where he really becomes obsessed with trying to find the Golem and actually wants to reanimate the Golem, because he starts thinking, well, he wants power, he wants wealth, he wants fame, and there's no better way to achieve that as if he can discover the Golem, because in the old myth the rabbi hides the Golem, he doesn't destroy it. So he believes that it's going to be in Prague, and he believes he is the one that's going to find this Golem. So, like I say, we have a myth within a myth, a story within a story, and the author beautifully balances this between the two. The main story, Johan's story, is, as I say, intriguing right from the start. It's about what would you do if you believe you've discovered the secret to reanimate this powerful creature. And basically, he then starts to get obsessed. He starts losing his mind. Everything else disappears from his life. He does get entangled with a bit of a romance with a woman, but then he puts that aside. I don't want to give too much away about that. So it's about obsession, and it's about obsession at all costs. And the way that it's written, again, the author manages to create that sort of ancient feel to her writing. So again, it's another layer to this whole myth: what is reality and what is myth. And the story, manages to jump along quite nicely. It zips from town to town. He does meet a bunch of actors that he travels with, so again, you get all the flavour of that and their personalities. And he's not put off. People try to persuade him and say, well, look, what's really important in life? And he dismisses that, and he really becomes obsessed by this. The book is illustrated, and they're beautifully illustrated. The illustrations are very bold. They're not exactly what I would have thought was going to be in amongst the text, but I guess, if I'm honest, I did grow to like them. They're more of a graphic design kind of bold quality, but I then realised, that does lend itself to the actual context of the story, as we realise that Johan's quest becomes a bit more desperate. So the stark illustrations mirror that. And really, as I'm going to say, the themes of the book it's a tale about the thirst for knowledge, power, and ultimately the kind of futility of chasing such things. It's a story that just reminds me of what is important in our lives, or what should be important in our lives, and that the journey can actually be the quest, not necessarily the destination. Especially if the path that you set out on is a corrupt one to begin with, then you've got no hope whatsoever. Now, I really did enjoy this book. It was a story that I'd not heard of before, and it was my own personal experience of discovering it in Prague while I was walking around this beautiful medieval town. And it was just a delight for it to unfold in the way that it did. Now, I'm not sure how easy it is to get. I'm sure you can have a look on the internet. I got my copy in Prague, so I would definitely recommend nipping over to Prague, getting yourself a copy there, really soaking up the atmosphere, and just enjoying the book. As always, thank you so much for watching The Bottled Imp. Hopefully you've enjoyed the episode. Leave comments in the comment box, and hopefully you'll be able to track down a copy. You can follow us on Facebook. The Facebook page is The Bottled Imp, as you'd probably guess. And you can follow us on Twitter at The Bottled Imp. That's all we've got time for. Thank you so much for watching, fellow imps. See you next time.